Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to day 29 of Quran in a Year Plus, where we learn to look at the world and live life according to the lens of the Quran. We're about to begin week number 5 in our journey, and may Allah Azza wa Jal reward every single one of you for your consistency, for your dedication towards His book. And as we begin this week, we want to remind ourselves of the wonderful relationship that is there with the Quran and how much blessings a person gets when they maintain this relationship and how beneficial it is for them. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Would any of you like, upon returning to his family, to find 3 large, fat, pregnant she-camels?" Now this was extremely valuable at their time, and you want to imagine for ourselves that's something that is incredibly valuable, that we value and we would love to find as we return home. And of course they replied and they said yes. So the Prophet ﷺ, he replied and he said, "Then 3 verses that one of you recites in his prayer are better for him than 3 large fat she-camels." And once again we remind ourselves and we develop that mindset that the Quran is so wonderful and so beneficial for me, that as I develop this relationship and especially as I put it into practice, how much that benefits me and strengthens my relationship with Allah the Almighty. Today we're going to be looking at verses 257 to 261 of Surah Baqara. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. Allah takes care of those who believe in Him. He grants them success and victory and takes them out of darkness of disbelief and ignorance into the light of belief and knowledge. The allies of the disbelievers are the idols who beautify disbelief for them and take them from the light of belief and knowledge into the darkness of disbelief and ignorance. They are the people of the fire who will remain therein forever. ألم تر إلى الذي حاج إبراهيم في ربه أن آتاه الله الملك إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت قال أنا أحيي وأميت قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأت بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. After mentioning the 2 groups, Allah gives 2 comparisons of the 2 groups by stating, "O Prophet, have you seen the audacity of the tyrant who argued with Ibrahim about Allah's lordship and oneness? This happened because Allah had given him the power to rule, yet he transgressed. Ibrahim explained to him the attributes of his Lord by saying, 'My Lord is the one who gives life to the creation and causes them to die.' The tyrant stubbornly said, 'I too can give life and cause death. I can kill whomever I wish and pardon whomever I want to.' Ibrahim then put forward another stronger argument by saying to him, 'The Lord I worship is the one who brings the sun from the direction of the east, so you try to bring it from the west.' The tyrant was overcome by the compelling argument. Allah does not allow wrongdoers to be guided and walk His path due to their oppression and tyranny. أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أنى يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها فأماته الله 100 عام ثم بعثه قال كم لبثت قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم قال بل لبثت 100 عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنه وانظر إلى حمارك ولنجعلك آية للناس وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما فلما تبين له قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. Or have you seen the example of the one who passed by a town where the roofs had fallen, the walls had collapsed, and the people had died, making it a deserted ruin? Surprised, this man said, "How will Allah ever bring these people back to life?" Allah then caused him to die for 100 years, brought him back to life, and asked him, "How long were you dead for?" He replied, "I remained like that for 1 day or less than a day." Allah then said to him, "In fact, you were like this for 100 years. Look at the food you had with you, which has not gone bad despite this long period of time that has passed. Look at your dead donkey. We want to make you a clear sign for showing people the power we have to bring them back to life. Look at the bones of the donkey that are scattered. We will lift them, put them together, clothe them with flesh, and give them life again." When he saw this, the reality became clear to him, and he recognized Allah's greatness and admitted, "I know Allah is the most capable of everything." وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ قَالَ بَلَى وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي قال فخذ 4 من الطير فصرهن إليك ثم اجعل على كل جبل منهن جزءا ثم ادعهن يأتينك سعيا واعلم أن الله عزيز حكيم. O Prophet, remember when Ibrahim said, "O my Lord, show me how the dead come back to life." Allah asked him, "Do you not believe in this?" Ibrahim replied, "I do believe, but I just want to put my heart at ease." So Allah instructed him to take 4 birds and tame them. Then cut them into pieces and place a part of each bird on the mountains around you. Then call those birds, and you will see that they will come quickly to you, being brought back to life. Know, O Ibrahim, that Allah is mighty in His dominion and wise in His instruction, legislation, and creation. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. The example of the reward of the believers who spend their wealth in Allah's path is like a grain planted by a farmer in fertile ground. This grain then produces 7 spikes, each carrying 100 grains. Allah multiplies the reward for whomever of His slaves He wishes and gives them without anything in return. Allah is bountiful and generous, and He knows who deserves for their reward to be multiplied. One of the greatest gifts of faith is Allah's wilayah, His guardianship and care. As Allah tells us that He is the guardian of those who believe, He brings them out of darkness into light. Now this is the reality that we want to remind ourselves, that Allah is the guardian, the protector, the one who assists those individuals who believe. He brings us out from the darkness of disbelief, from the darkness of temptations and desires, to the light of guidance and the path that leads to His pleasure and His bounty. And to understand that to have Allah as our wali means that a person is never left alone, not in hardship, not in confusion, not in temptation. He guides, protects, and supports you. That's why the greatest fruit of Iman is not materialistic. It is the relationship that the servant has with Allah and earns his divine guardianship that turns the darkest nights into light. And this serves as a reminder for us to remember that no matter how difficult, no matter how dark the times might be, that I am never alone. That Allah is my guardian and He's always there with me. And to Him belongs the ultimate wisdom. And the Quran also warns us that blessings themselves can become a test. Look at the example of this king that was arguing with Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the reason for his stubbornness and arrogance is because Allah had given him kingship. And instead of seeing this as a trust, he saw it as proof of his own greatness, that I am the one who deserved this. And that's the danger of unchecked wealth, power, or comfort, that they can make us forget the one who is giving us the blessings. And sometimes hardships like illness, setbacks, things that we don't like naturally, may actually be hidden mercies that keep us humble and close to Allah. And this is why a person always has to monitor their hearts. That as blessings are coming into my life, am I humble in front of Allah? Do I thank Allah? Do I utilize them in the right way? And when difficulties are there as well, that is a person content with the decree of Allah, grateful for the blessings that they do have despite the setbacks. And Allah, He says, وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ, that Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. And this is important to understand, that guidance isn't withheld randomly. When people persist in injustice, arrogance, sin, they push themselves away from Allah's light. And the more injustice, oppression a person commits, the further they go away from the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah, He mentions, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم, that when they deviated, Allah caused their hearts to deviate. So every compromise, every deviation, every transgression, every violation leads a person away from the guidance of Allah. And as believers, we understand, we know Allah, that somebody who is seeking the truth sincerely, Allah will guide their heart. And the ones who go astray is because of their own actions. The fact that they choose disbelief over belief, the fact that they choose to transgress and violate the limits and oppress others, becomes a means of their misguidance. But nonetheless, Allah still calls them to believe and has the door open for them should they choose to turn back to Allah. And finally, Ibrahim's story in these verses shows us the art of dialogue. That when he made a statement that Allah is the one who gives life, which means He's the one who brings into existence from nothing, and He is the one who causes things to die. And the king responds and he says that I am the one who also is able to do that. He brings somebody forward and says, I spare this individual. And he brings another person and assassinates him. And he believes that this is what it means to give life and to spare life. Notice how Ibrahim alayhi salam did not waste time with this argument, even though it was extremely foolish. But this gives him insight into the way that this individual is thinking. Instead, he moves to a stronger argument, and he kept the focus on the greatness of Allah, and he exposed the contradictions of this king. And this is definitely a skill that we need today in our classrooms, in workplaces, and even our own families, to be able to engage in dialogue, engage in a way without arrogance. And it's not about who can shout louder, but who can be more thoughtful, calm, and anchored in the truth. And this is a skill that we need to learn as ambassadors of Islam, as individuals who call to the truth, that to understand the audience that I'm speaking to. That if they give an answer and they're stubborn upon it, I don't need to waste my time trying to disprove them, but let me move to a better argument. Let me ask open-ended questions to understand their claims, and then present my argument, my statement, in a structured manner that sheds light on the truth, that makes a person question their belief without being attacked. Because when a person feels attacked and they're criticized, even though we might be claiming the truth, but the question is the other person listening to the argument? And that's the nature of human beings. When they feel criticized, they're going to get defensive right away. They're not going to pay attention to the argument, no matter how strong it is. But when a person is respected in their stance and we have conversation, then people will think and they will understand the greatness of Allah Azza wa Jal, and they will see the beauty of Islam. May Allah Azza wa Jal truly make us ambassadors of this beautiful religion. May He make us amongst those who convey it with wisdom. May He make us amongst those who live according to its teachings. And this is something that is very important, not just when it comes to da'wah, calling others towards Islam, but even in day-to-day conversations with family, with friends, with my spouse, with my children, with my parents, that how can we communicate in a better way that helps us understand one another and that protects our bonds from the plots of shaitan. So try to research, search, read on how we can communicate better. May Allah Azza wa Jal strengthen our bonds. May He protect our families. May He make us a source of guidance for others. I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.